Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Dr. Testosterone starring Dr. George Tsoulianos, brought to you by his books. First one, Bodybuilding, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Excellent overview of all PEDs, how they're used, sample cycles, side effects, everything you need to know. And then during quarantine, Doctor got busy and wrote the sequel, Training, Nutrition, Supplementation in Bodybuilding, which obviously covers all those good things that you also need to know. Because if you're not training and eating right, all the drugs in the world ain't gonna help you. And while you're on Amazon.com buying his books, check out mine, Real Bodybuilding, 25 years of, what is it, Muscle Truth and 25 years in the trenches. Now, from Athens, Greece, please welcome Dr. George Tsoulianos. Welcome, Doctor.
Hello, Ron. People were really excited last week. We had the former Mr. Libby Brandon-Carey.
Yeah,
it was really honest and decent interview, you know.
Yeah.
Well, full of surprises. Next week, we're going to have Milos the Mind Sarchev.
Yeah.
And
everybody, you guys need to know, I had nothing to do with all these interviews. This was Dr. George's idea, and he's been contacting all these people. So I never thought this show would start having all these stars in it. But great job.
Yeah, I'm working on my public relations, you know.
No, you've gotten some great guests already. Geez, you've only been doing this for a few weeks now with the guests. So what's going on? You told me before we started recording you were getting the coronavirus vaccine.
Yeah, I'm going to have the vaccine today, so I'm going to let you know if I'm going to have some horns on your tail.
Wow. So do you know anyone else that already has got the vaccine? Like, you know?
Yeah, in my family, my brother-in-law did, because he's a cardiologist. Everybody from the medical staff at the hospital, the public hospital, they get vaccinated. But, you know, but I want to check my antibodies today before the shot, because now, you know, I am exposed to the coronavirus for 1 year and more, for 1 year, let's say. So I want to see if my system already has developed some antibodies that I don't know. And then we'll check it out after the vaccine, because you're supposed to increase your immunity levels, you know, your antibodies. And actually, the Arnold will be held in September, so I have to get vaccinated in order to, because my passport also has been expired. So, yeah, so everything comes in, you know.
Full circle. Wow. So tell me this, if you do this antibody test and you have a high amount of antibodies, do you even need a vaccine, or are you already like immune?
But actually you do, because we can say the same, but we can speculate the same. If I have antibodies for flu, H1N1, I don't need the shot. No, you need it because this natural immunity that comes from exposure to the virus lasts only for 12 weeks. But the vaccine is annual, you know, and then something more. It's way more potent, the immunity response of the organism to the vaccine, that has less side effects than the virus itself, which is more risky potentially. Okay, so you have this umbrella protection for 1 year instead of 3 months.
Well, you know, doctor, you know that normally a vaccine takes years to perfect, and trials and all this before they put it on the market and let people get injected with it. This thing was really rushed. Are you concerned that it was rushed so fast?
This is an argument and the point of the anti-vaccine, of the people that are against for the vaccine. The point is, for the first time, the medical community and all the sponsors made a really fast response to this, and millions of funds, you know, in order to have it on time. You know why? Yeah. Because millions are dying. 1.9 million people have died, almost 2 million, you know. We don't need more victims. The point is, we need to go back in normality. So we cannot travel, we cannot hug each other, we cannot take off the fucking masks or the quarantines if there is no immunity. Yeah. And what do we choose? Immunity out of the COVID or immunity out of the vaccine, which is way more, we know how vaccines work. Now, this is a new generation of vaccines, the mRNA. They are way more different than introducing a weak virus into yourself. Yeah. And actually, the side effects come within few hours, you know. So that's why you remain over there for 30 minutes. And, you know, I have to tell you, 1 out of 10,000 to 100,000, or 1 out of 1 million people develop some lethal side effects that may occur, of course, way more often with getting the virus itself, you know. But the point is, you cannot travel, you cannot enter the restaurants, the hotels, the stadiums, you know, the arenas, you know, the aircrafts, everything, if you're not getting vaccinated. Imagine how it's going to be the lawsuits if there is a gym owner and somebody who is not vaccinated spreads the virus. How irresponsible gonna be this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm watching like TV shows and movies that were made before the virus, where everybody's gathered and hugging, and I'm like, man, we can't do any of that stuff anymore. We don't even live in that world anymore. We're in some crazy futuristic dystopian society where people can't come near each other. So yeah,
people who avoid to get vaccinated, they have to remain isolated, like the smokers in the
airport.
Airports, yes.
They got the little smoking lounge.
And they have to avoid, to keep wearing the mask, which is nerve-wracking, of course. You know?
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't have to worry about that because I don't think I'll be eligible. They're not going to let people like me get the vaccine for a long time still, so I have a little time to think about it. Well, Doctor, you've been accumulating some questions. Of course, every time we get a guest, people still want to know the answers to their burning questions. So let's get right to your viewers. Number one, how to preserve fertility during TRT. A low dose of HCG, 250 to 500 IU twice a week, is that enough? And if we apply HCG in low doses for a decade, can we cause desensitization of the Leydig cells to LH? And then there's an also question, but let's answer that first.
So I believe that 250 twice a week, so 500 is the minimum dose. And I don't believe that lesser than 1,000 restores remarkably the fertility, because we know that when we administrate steroids, the balls shrink because the axis in the homeostasis. So I would say the minimum is 500. So better to be twice of 500, so 1,000 every week. Personally, I inject 1,500 and I inject 250 every day. Now about desensitization, I think that this may happen if you abuse HCG, and prolonged also. So let's say some dorks inject 5,000 IUs 3 times a week in order to stimulate the HPTA, which doesn't work, of course. And after that, it may be some LH desensitization. But it's different, the PCT and the abuse, let's say, of HCG rather than small protocols that are used within TRT or a steroid blast.
Gotcha. Okay, and the second part of his question says, also, should we combine HCG with FSH, altermon? I don't know if that's a trade name of an FSH drug. Should we combine HCG with FSH from the beginning of TRT, or FSH and HMG should be administered only when our goal is to have kids?
So synthetic FSH, which is HMG, human menopausal gonadotropin, is the best option in order to boost your fertility when you want to have kids, along with vitamin E, tocopherol, and zinc. It's really more expensive, but in my patients, I combine HCG and HMG, but actually HMG is fair enough because it includes also synthetic LH. But you can use them both, and actually 5 of my patients who used to abuse steroids were able to conceive with their wives.
Okay.
So yes, yes, HMG is a real deal along with HCG if you can afford it.
Okay. Did all those patients name their sons George? I'm just curious. Huh? I know that happens sometimes.
Well, I can be the godfather, you know.
Okay, that's good enough. I mean, George is a good name, but it's not for everybody. Next question. I'm currently using a glucocorticoid steroid nasal spray as prescribed by my doctor. Does such a spray have a negative effect on testosterone? Does it suppress the levels? Meanwhile, I'm on a cruise, 200 milligrams testcypionate a week. No,
first of all, I don't think that the nasal spray suppresses the HPTA axis compared to the intramuscular cortisone or the oral, okay? So I don't think there's some substantial suppression. Besides, secondly, this guy is using testosterone, so there's no fear of suppressing its own because he uses exogenous. As a matter of fact, he suppresses his own, but there's no point that the one that he injects will be lowered. No way.
Yeah. What are glucocorticoid steroids used for?
It's corticosteroids in 2 classes. Glucocorticosteroids like cortisone because it elevates glucose. Yeah. And mineral corticosteroids like aldosterone. Okay. Gotcha. That retains sodium. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Next one.
Both are steroids, though. But not
Yeah.
anabolic, catabolic steroids.
Yeah, because everyone, we always hear steroid and we're like, oh, steroids, but no, there's a lot of steroids that have nothing to do with muscle building. Next one, what would be a good way to fix crashed estrogen? And can crashed estrogen lead to decreasing the SHBG in the body?
So decreasing or increasing?
Yeah, so this guy, he's got very, very low estrogen.
Yes. And what about the SHBG, he says?
He says, can this lead to decreasing the SHBG in the body?
Yeah, so I think estrogens elevate relatively with SHBG. Now, you can elevate estrogens by using HCG, for instance, that will increase estrogens indirectly by aromatization of your own testosterone that will increase. But of course, you can increase your testosterone dose that will aromatize. Okay. That's it.
Okay. Next question. I'm surprised you didn't get rid of it because it's kind of long, but here we go. I have a question regarding the effectiveness of masteron versus anavar when it comes to muscle gain. And I want to hear the doc's opinion, and Ron can chime in as well. I don't have an opinion on that. So basically, it seems from a health standpoint, masteron is a better option, an injectable with less impact on lipids, of course. But having used it, I didn't notice too much from it in terms of muscle gain, except some strength and hardness. I know it's a dry compound and won't put on a lot of mass, but would you say that it's comparable to anavar when it comes to muscle growth and pure nitrogen retention? On paper, anavar is much more anabolic. So am I wrong in expecting that anavar at the same milligrams will put on more muscle and overall be a better drug for gaining in performance? Or am I expecting too much from anavar and should stick to masteron instead? He's running this with 250 milligrams test and a very low dose of tren acetate, which is a combo, by the way, I love. Okay, so he must have some special test.
So this guy wants to know if masteron is?
How effective is masteron compared to anavar for putting on muscle mass?
Actually, masteron is an androgen, it's not an anabolic. Androgens do not build tissues like anabolic steroids. So anavar will build tissues.
Wow.
That in case of a medical perspective, it will reverse muscle wasting, or it will speed the healing of burns by building up connective tissue. Now, speaking of masteron, it's an androgen with anti-estrogenic properties, so you can combine testosterone with masteron in order to avoid some extra aromatase inhibitors. Yeah. All right. But it's like comparing apples with oranges. I mean, you cannot expect the same thing from anavar and from masteron. Masteron is supposed to give you a hardening effect, okay, to increase strength. But anavar is about building tissues and make you anabolize. The point is, both of these drugs are dry drugs, DHT derivatives. So you cannot expect this bulking effect and this water retention based on androgens also, but based on glycogen, because simply there is no estrogen production, so it doesn't favor anabolism. Now you can combine anavar with testosterone to make some estrogens and have the anabolic effect out of anavar, and along with masteron, yeah, it's a good combination he's using, but no, you cannot combine masteron with anavar. Anavar is 330 anabolic index, masteron is 80 only.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you don't see masteron in off-season cycles when guys are trying to get bigger and stronger, really.
Sometimes they do it in order to avoid some extra aromatase inhibitors, but you need some estrogens, yes. Yeah. And actually, masteron is good to get laid, yeah. to increase free testosterone a lot.
They're going to walk around showing the bottle and girls are attracted to you? No, I wish it was that easy. Next one is about finasteride. We get one of these every week, finasteride. Does finasteride reduce muscle gain on gear? Essentially on testosterone only. My blood work shows on testosterone and masteron, my DHT was at 1.30 nmol over ml. And I guess the reference range is 0.86 to 3.44.
No, because DHT is not anabolic. It's deactivating skeletal muscle. It has some anti-estrogenic activity, and blocking DHT will elevate the estradiol, so it make you look more puffy, perhaps, and bloated. But on the other hand, if you use finasteride with testosterone, you're going to grow some hair seriously, rather than using finasteride alone, because testosterone will thicken your hair by the presence of finasteride.
So, because finasteride is used for hair loss, it's a hair loss drug, right?
Yeah, the point is, listen to the difference. It's different to use, it's preferable to use finasteride with testosterone for hair thinning rather than finasteride without testosterone. Okay. Because testosterone will thicken your hair, because that's what testosterone does in the body, grows you more hair. Now, we have the hair loss over here, but if we block the hair loss, then we have the thickening of the hair.
Oh boy, it's like they're battling each other. Okay. Next one is, after a good blast, I started 250 milligrams test enanthate weekly, tapering down in November. By December 1st, I was completely off. Is going for blood work toward the ends of January enough time off to see any occurring repercussions from steroid use?
Now, this sounds to me that these guys are afraid and are pussy to see any serious side effect out of the use. So the most realistic would be right after your PCT, have a blood work to see how much you screwed up your labs. Otherwise, if we wait for 6 months, you're not going to see some serious impact, you know. So we need to see our faces to the mirror and face the truth. Now, you use that shit. What's the side effect and the consequences? Don't try to avoid this after a long period of time, because that's not the reality. It doesn't reflect the reality.
So, you know, with your patients who are using anabolics, do you ask them to get blood work while they're on a
No. Actually, this is not good, because you're going to panic and freak out. But if you are super bloated and you have no libido, you can measure E2 and prolactin, estradiol and prolactin. But why should we measure, I mean, how are the lipids or the liver in the middle of the cycle? Now, unless you have a jaundice, for instance. This is something critical. Or you have, no heart attack, some chest pain, you know. But let's see in the end of the cycle, how bad is it?
Yeah, because I know from my experience, from a lot of guys I talk to, when we get blood work, just from our regular, our regular family doctor, general practitioner, most of us wait until we've been off cycle for at least a few weeks, and then we go get our blood work, because we don't want to know. I don't want to know what that would look like during the middle of the blast cycle.
Think it the other way, Michael. I'm sorry.
Ron,
sorry. Think it the other way. So if you are using something that is supposed to be liver toxic and you don't have liver enzymes, it's fucking faked.
That's true. Well,
okay, so you want to see the distortions, how potent and good the drugs are. If you're using, for instance, halotestin or winstrol, and you have an HDL of 40 and liver enzymes down to normal, then they're ripping you off.
Yeah. Or you can get Bill Llewellyn's Roid Test, roidtest.com. Yeah, and find out. I'm so glad he fixed that, so you can see the doses now in a lot of them.
Yeah, partially, but the point is the drug dealers hate him, you know?
Oh, I'm sure they do. They probably have a target on his head. Poor Bill. All right. Question for the doc. You said you used 40 milligrams Nolvadex for 4 days and it resolved your gyno issue. Did you also use anastrozole with it to bring your E2 levels down, or is Nolvadex only enough to prevent gyno?
To be honest, I was using 1 milligram once weekly. The point is, when gyno is already established, aromatase inhibitors are useless because you need to occupy the estrogen receptors. Now, for the estrogens that are already being produced, aromatase inhibitor doesn't do anything, because from now on it stops the production. But those estrogens that are already floating and sitting on the estrogen receptor need to be blocked by a tamoxifen or a SERM, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, because that was crazy. You said you were getting gyno, but you took the Nolvadex and 4 days later it was gone?
Yeah. Wow. But I had a painful lump. And, you know, I had sex with a girl and I was really embarrassed because, it was like a volcano.
Wait, was it leaking?
No, man, but I'm telling you, it was protruding. It was kind of painful touching.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because I have heard of guys. Can men have? I've heard can men produce milk?
This is actually under increased prolactinemia. Yes.
That's crazy. Why would we be able to produce milk?
If you squeeze it.
No, I saw a video one time of a guy squeezing his nipples and milk was coming out, and I was like, "How is that even possible? It doesn't make sense." Anyway, it's pretty gross. Next one is, how much healthier is it to take halotestin or Superdrol sublingually? Can it be done long term, and would they lose effectiveness?
I believe it's you're gonna avoid the 20% elevation of your liver enzymes because they enter one time the liver, you know.
Yeah.
But of course, you have to take some also liver protection and avoid other drugs that are liver toxic, you know. But it's worth of trying, you know, those super potent and toxic drugs.
Yeah, you've recommended taking orals under the tongue all the time, don't you?
Crush it, make it a powder, and let it dissolve. It's the faster way.
Faster, and it's also less liver toxic, slightly?
Exactly.
Huh.
Both.
Good.
It's
Well,
like
there you have it.
it actually resembles injecting it because it gets from here directly to the bloodstream,
Yeah, it's the buccal gland. Is that what's under there?
Sublingual, yes.
Sublingual under your tongue? Okay.
When you're having a heart attack, you take nitroglycerin under the tongue.
That's right.
And this guy, or hypoglycemic coma, they put sugar sublingually,
Yeah, I did an interesting interview with James Hollingshead about his opinions on insulin use. Guys, please check that out on the channel because we talked about some crazy stuff, things that can go badly wrong with insulin, but that's a whole other story. This is a weird question, doctor. What is the best anabolic steroid or PED for mind-muscle connection?
I think that the strong androgens, so testosterone, trenbolone, halo testing, because they bind super high, they attach to the androgen receptors in the brain, they pass through the blood-brain barrier, and they get very strong bonding. They suppress, of course, HPTA, but these are the drugs that drive you crazy and they increase your, cognitive function, of course, your aggressiveness, and perhaps they can be nootropic along with other stimulants,
Yeah, I didn't expect an actual answer to that. I thought you were going to say, that's crazy. Mind-muscle connection is something you have to foster. It's got nothing to do with drugs.
Yeah, you have to know that the roid rage is a mind thing, and it's basically your brain screws up under the presence of excessive androgens,
Yeah, well, that's definitely a real thing. I've seen some jerks become mega jerks when they're on a lot of gear. Next one is
the football players need to have roid rage. Yeah. They need to.
Football players, fighters. I mean, come on.
They have to attack, and crash and collide each other.
Yeah, I mean, they have like 5 seconds to run across the field and smash into another guy.
You can't be a pussy to that,
Oh no, those are some tough guys. So this one is, I'm 163 pounds. How much water should I drink while bulking?
Now, drinking water is a multifactorial thing. You cannot say just a number, but basically, I wouldn't say go below 3 liters. I don't know how many gallons that is. But listen,
about 1.5 gallons, I want to say. Yeah, 3 liters. Maybe that's 2 gallons.
Actually, 8 glasses of water is the 3 liters.
Okay.
So listen, 4 glasses of water is 1 liter. 12. I'm sorry, 12.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's a.
So listen to me.
Yes.
How much water? It's multifactorial. Depends. Body mass index, your body weight, your muscle mass, temperature, room temperature, environment temperature, humidity also, because you cannot evaporize and you get more dehydrated. Intensity of the exercise. All right, and also osmolality. What is osmolality? If you eat a lot of carbs and salt, your blood osmolality increases so much that you need to dilute, and you dilute it by drinking extra water. That's why when we eating carbs and salty things, we need more water in order to dilute our plasma, or our blood, actually. So it's multifactorial, Okay. But I would say that don't go below 3 liters. Now, off-season means that you're eating carbs. So imagine that, think about that. Under keto diet, you need more water because in the absence of carbs, extra protein, and in the absence of carbs, you get dehydrated. And also, if this happens during summertime, that most likely happens, you get ripped under summertime. Right. And bulking under winter, you don't sweat that much, So
yeah, I remember during Desert Storm, I think it was, I was reading that the soldiers in Iraq, because it would get to like 120 degrees during the day at times, and they had all that gear on, they would require up to 100 glasses of water a day to stay hydrated. 100. That's a lot of water. Can you imagine that?
I can't imagine how they can tolerate and active normally, Yeah. Because guys like me, I cannot tolerate environmental temperature over 100, I get really, really nervous and really aggressive.
Wow. How hot does it get over there in Greece in the summertime?
Well, 105.
Whew. Okay, that's too damn hot.
When I was in Vegas, it was 97, 98. Okay. I was with Samir, and we went to the gas station, there was 98.
Wow. Now, I've heard some of those, like places like Dubai, it gets to be like 120, 125 degrees.
Well, the world record is in Death Valley.
Yeah.
In California.
Yep. I think we set new records last year, which is probably not a good thing. but we set records for like I think they had the highest recorded temperature. I want to say it was like 128 degrees, something like that. It was ridiculous.
It was over 50 Celsius. You know, it's crazy shit.
I think that actually is hell. Last question. Oh, this is a good one. He wrote a very long question. Then we told him you told him too long. And I agreed it was like that long. So he summarized it. Can I get any bigger? Can I grow any bigger? I'm natural. I want to remain natural. I've grown more than 30 kilograms of muscle and 60 kilograms of weight. So he's already put on, 100. That's about 125 pounds, and he's out of that about half of its muscle.
This is bullshit. He gained 60 kilograms, which is
120
pounds. Come on, this is bullshit.
Well, it could be just fat. He admits that he thinks half of it is muscle and half of it's probably fat.
Now, I tell to the guys that come at work that if you maximize food, nutrition supplementation, gear, and serious lifting, no more than pure 1 kilogram, which is 2 pounds of solid muscle per month. So let's say 12 kilograms per year, even if you are a beginner and starter, you know, because as you proceed and become advanced, you're barely going to have half a kilogram, so 1 pound per month, you know?
Yeah.
So hard. You know, doesn't mean it's like flesh to eat, like meat, you know? Pure meat, under the same body fat percentage.
Yeah. No, I tell people, you know, Mike Menser, I don't take credit for this. He was the first one that I know of that said this. You know, people think like 5 pounds of muscle is no big deal. He says, put 5 pounds of steak, lean steak on a table in front of you. Look at all that. That's how much would be on your body if it was all pure lean muscle tissue.
So I'm watching Dexter Jackson 2000 and 2020. He gained about 20 pounds, lean body mass, okay?
Right.
He was 220 and 240. So 40 pounds in 20 years.
Yeah, 2 pounds a year. And he's one of the most genetically gifted human beings of all time.
Can you imagine how little is this for some dorks, you know? Just 2 pounds a year?
Dexter's first contest, I think he was like 135 pounds.
All right, but I remember his debut as a rookie, he was 220. And last year he was 240 he was given. So 40 pounds in 20 years.
Yeah. Well, he actually did even better than that because he turned professional in 1998 as a light heavyweight at 198 pounds. So he gained 40 pounds after he already turned pro. But this is one of the most genetically gifted human beings that we've ever seen. But yeah, I'll add my 2 cents on that. With this guy, I'm going to take him at his word. I'm going to say that he's not lying because he doesn't say this could have happened over 20 years. He doesn't say how long he's been training.
Gaining body weight doesn't mean it's lean muscle.
Well, so if you put on, I'm going to use pounds for all the people that don't know the metric system. So if you put on 120 pounds of body weight, let's say he started out lifting at 100 pounds, real skinny, and he got up to 220, and you know he's chubby, so he knows half of that is fat. I think that's realistic, but as a natural, I don't know how much more he's going to be able to gain. Very little, I would think.
The better thing is to lean out and see what remains. Yeah,
I agree. You know, that's one reason I tell people you should either compete or get in good shape once, just to see what you really look like and how much muscle you really have. Because so many guys, they're big and they have a lot of body fat, and they think most of it's muscle. But if they get ready for a contest, they quickly see. You know, I've seen guys that start out a diet at like say 250 pounds, and they think they're going to be on stage ripped at 230. But when they get down to 230, they're nowhere near ripped. They have to keep going another 20, maybe 30 pounds.
So Ronnie was 330 at his heaviest off-season guest posing.
Yeah.
And you could say he was ripped at 300 pounds. Of course, super ripped at 290, 285.
Yeah.
But he was ready at 300 pounds. So losing 30 pounds, it was enough for him.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, again, now we're talking about probably the best genetics of all time, Ronnie Coleman. Ooh, that was the king of genetics, king of hard training, king of everything. God love you, Ronnie. Well, doctor, that is all the questions. We're not going to have questions next week because the doctor has a very special guest, as you said in the beginning, Milos the Mind Sarshev.
Yeah, dear friend, yes.
Yeah, it should be very interesting. We've got Greece, and where's he from? Yugoslavia, it used to be.
Yeah, Serbia, which is 1,000 miles north, you know.
Is it really that far?
Yeah, and I met his beautiful daughter 5 years ago in Athens.
Oh, wow.
She's an artist, you know, she's a paint.
Oh, wow.
And yes, I met Milos just before he visited the US and get his green card because he was suspended for some years.
Right.
Yeah. So after that, he went back to America and got his green card, and continued his brilliant career. He's the best representative of the Balkans. Balkans are 5 or 6 countries north of Greece, including Greece.
Okay.
And he did the American dream.
Yeah. I mean, he did a great job at the Olympia with me. He had some really good expert commentary and stuff.
Actually, he got COVID.
He got COVID, and he was blowing. He was this close to me for the whole week, for a lot of the weekend, and I didn't get it. So thank you, God, for sparing me, I guess. Anyway, and I have not been vaccinated, so it wasn't that. Anyway, so guys, that's next week. Be sure to check it out. It's going to be a really good show. Put your questions below in the comments. Don't make them this long, please. We don't have all day to read them, but we do try to get to as many as we can. Doctor's doing a great thing here, helping you for free, giving you expert medical advice from a medical doctor who's also a national bodybuilding champion. There's not too many of those in this world, guys. Trust me. So thank you so much, Doctor. Appreciate it as always. And everybody, thanks for watching Ask Dr. Testosterone with Dr. George Tsouliatos. We'll see you next time.